everyone, and welcome back to the Aether Hub, the only place to find the little-known lore of MTG. Yes, between matches on Arena, you can join in and learn the story behind some of your favorite cards. Finally, I'm stepping into the digital marketplace. In today's video, we'll be doing more on the Orzhov Syndicate. If you think capping people's knees over some loose change is a wise business decision, then this guild is probably for you, but just because they're greedy, literally soul suckers who use religion as a punchline doesn't mean they're immoral. Well, actually it does, and I won't really defend them, yet we will talk about their ghosts and how spirits on Ravnica may be more tied to another plane and some ancient history than we first thought. But before we get into the video, I have some sharking of my own to do, depending on who you ask anyway. I'm just here to remind you that right now the Aether Hub is doing a Patreon blitz to drum up support, ensuring that the channel can continue for the long haul. Right now, signed cards are going out at all levels, with the highest supporters getting complete Aether bundles, themed bundles that change each month. Check out all of the insane value supporting the channel gets you by checking the link in the description below. Spiel over, so let's get on to the video. Okay, so what's the deal with ghosts and spirits on Ravnica, mostly centered around the Orzhov Syndicate? Well, in our previous video on the guild, which you can find linked at the end or in the description, we learned that as mean and greedy as the loan sharks of the Orzhov are, well, they only get greedier as they capture the souls of those indebted to them to work off the remainder of their debts in the afterlife, doing all kinds of ghostly activities for the guild, like spook people into making payments? Look, I don't know what ghosts actually can do. So, yes, I do admit keeping people's ghosts to pay off debts is bad, but what makes these ghosts in the first place? Where do ghosts on Ravnica come from, and why do they stay? Well, we know they come from dead people, but why are they bound to the plane? What's the history behind the ghosts of the Orzhov? Well, on the less haunted planes out there in the multiverse, the ghosts of the scarily departed just fly off into the ether. There's no mention of a greater afterlife, really, but the ether of the multiverse is mentioned. So basically, they wiggle out into space. Now, this is with most planes and most living beings, but not Ravnica, at least not for a long time. There was an ancient magic that acted as a shield, like our planet's ozone layer, possibly crafted by Azor during the founding of the guilds. Essentially, this barrier prevented multiversal threats from entering Ravnica and messing with the young guild politics on the plane. This means planeswalkers. As a side effect of this barrier, the ghosts of Ravnica couldn't wiggle out into the ether and were plane-bound. As you would imagine, with the amount of deaths that occurred at that time, ghosts began just piling up. Enough so that the entire ghost district was founded, known as Agram. With so many dead hanging about, the Orzhov, young at this point, took them as another resource, a loophole that they could exploit to get more money from the foolish and religious alike. This also meant that death could no longer serve as a means of escaping an agreement. The ghosts of the citizenry at this time still had to obey guild laws, as if nothing really happened to them, meaning they couldn't escape the Orzhov. Agram, the ghost district, which I'm pretty certain I'm butchering the name of, went through some issues in this time. First being a district of the dead exploited by the Orzhov, then as an army for Sadiq, the vampire leader of the Old Demir. Eventually the district was lifted and magically overlaid over top the city of the entire city of Ravnica, rather than being an actual district within the city. The ghosts still very much existed, but were not as on top of the normal citizens, as they were literally over top of them, not actually walking among them. Still, the Orzhov exploited their very existence. But remember, this was hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago before the current timeline, and you'll note we saw way less spirit activity even in the last Ravnica set, Return to Ravnica, and even less so-ish in the Ravnica Allegiance set. There's still a prominent point of the Orzhov, but not outside of it, really. But why? What happened to the ghosts since their heyday in original Ravnica? Well, it actually came from another plane, Dominaria. Yep, the plane that started the lore in the multiverse of MTG basically. Dominaria experienced an event known as the Mending. Tears in time and space appeared all over the plane thanks to various heavily magical and scientific activities. And these rifts threatened the entire multiverse, so much so that even Nicol Bolas chipped in to help heal them. As various planeswalkers sacrificed their sparks to heal the rifts, Teferi being one before gaining it back in our return to Dominaria, the tears began to heal and an event occurred known as the Mending, the healing of the time sequence of the multiverse. The major impact of this was that the powers of planeswalkers were greatly reduced, from god level to just normal OP levels that we see today. This is why Nicol Bolas is so pissed and why he's seeking to regain that power. Outside of that, it rippled through the multiverse, impacting each plane in a different, unique way. On Ravnica, the ghost shield catcher thing was destroyed, and ghosts could now go off into the ether, essentially seeing a great exodus from the ghost district. This also meant that multiversal threats and planeswalkers could once again visit Ravnica. This is why we see way less spirit-themed cards in Return to Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance, even with the Orzhov. The ghost literally just left to be in the ether. Still, we have some ghosts, but why? Why haven't they all left? Well, magic is still a thing. The priests of the Orzhov are experienced in capture spells, which bind the ghosts to their debtors while also letting important figures like the Obzedat Ghost Council keep going despite the barrier's removal. This is why we see Afterlife as a mechanic, but not a whole lot of ghost-themed cards. There just aren't a whole lot left outside of the Orzhov. The ghost streets have basically been cleared. This will be even more relevant with the story of Ravnica Allegiance and War for the Spark. Kaya the Ghost Assassin has already freed the Obzedat from the plane of Ravnica through her unique methods. Now she looks towards the hordes of ghosts under the employ of the Orzhov. These prisoners are freed as depicted in Ethereal Absolution, amazing card with amazing lore tied to it. It looks like Kaya, who hates ghosts sticking around, lets go these valuable resources, freeing them into the ether and forever changing the future of the Orzhov as a guild. For better or worse, we don't quite know yet. But there you guys have it, the story of the Orzhov ghosts, where they came from and where they went. To think that such a major part of a guild on Ravnica, in fact the entire plane, was impacted by an event years ago on a far-flung plane. Dominaria seems to be changing more than just the way the story is told in MTG. Anyway, I just want to wrap things up again by mentioning that patrons at all levels are getting insane rares and mythics signed as rewards as we try to drum up support for the channel. The mythic bundles are also insane value with great giveaways on top of signed mythics, rares, and other themed cards. Represent your guild and get goodies and support the greatest Vorthos channel on YouTube. Check the link in the description below. You can also support the channel by liking, sharing, subscribing, and of course hitting the bell to be notified of our newest videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time here on the Aether Hub. See ya!